listening to the Astral Hour. I'm your host, Astral Meadow. Join me as we take a glimpse into the mysterious. Welcome back to the final part of our Flower Essence series. In this episode, Justin and I will explore the last two groups of Dr. Edward Bach's original remedies. Those that speak to the dark night of the soul and the burdens of deep care for others. In part one, we explored the flowers that restore courage and trust when fear and uncertainty cloud the path. In part two, we turned to the heart, learning to reconnect with authenticity and healthy boundaries through the remedies for loneliness, oversensitivity, and disconnection. Now, in part three, we move into the soul's sacred work, the process of renewal after despair, surrender, and service. These flowers bring light to the inner spaces, reminding us that healing is both human and divine. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be back for part three. This has been a wonderful journey of learning and discovery. And I've already noticed just from the process of going through these one by one that my ability to discern and choose which remedy that one of us needs has gotten better. And so I think we've been able to zero in on which remedy we need to use at which time a little better than we were. Mm-hmm. And I've personally discovered that there were a few that I thought were good for one thing when it's actually turned out to be another one would be better.
Right.
And so this has been super helpful and insightful for me. And I hope it has been for everybody else.
Yeah. So, well, that's some good feedback from from the guest host of the show, that it has made you feel a little bit more confident and a little more like it's more relatable, like in those moments where you are looking for one. You're like, actually,
yeah,
I think it's this one.
Yeah, because I've learned a lot more. The bottles have little phrases on them, and if you simply go by the phrase, it doesn't give you the full picture sometimes. And so I think learning about it is incredibly valuable, and I think that's probably one very important fact for reaching out and getting a consultation to speak with somebody who has studied these, so that you could get a better guidance and a better picture for yourself, because they get a little nuanced. And the more that you know about it, the more that you can help yourself and help others, and they become a lot more effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes just connecting with another person and sharing your story and having a consult with somebody that kind of knows how to guide you through the process and might see things that maybe you're overlooking. And it's also nice to just have somebody to hold the space and kind of be with you as you navigate, some of these states, which some of them are a lot more harsh. Some of the ones today we'll talk about can be a little intense, and it might be nice to have a consult and then also have someone you kind of check in with and as you do the healing work. I think a lot of times it is kind of easy to self-prescribe these, and you can let your intuition guide you and all that. But then there's been a few, even on my own journey, which took me a while to solve and crack the case. Like, why is that essence not doing what I think it's doing? And then I take another one and I'm like, wow, this was like almost instant. And it's awesome to be self-led and self-guided on the journey, but sometimes it's also really nice to have someone hold space for you. So I do those consults. Which at the end of the episode, I'll spend some time, I guess, explaining kind of what that might look like. And as always, astralmeadow.com is the landing spot for all of my work and readings and consults and stuff. So, but
anyway, I'm very happy to be back and doing this part three, and we've got just two more groups to get through. So to begin, my first question for you would be, how does Dr. Bach, how is his spiritual view on despair and devotion? What does he make of those?
I think for batch, things like despair are indicators or signs of something happening like deep within the soul, like a transformative journey within. And I think it's like when all these outer supports fall away, or these maybe preconceptions that we have start to kind of dissipate, that's when our spirit really starts to remember its source, like its power. And it's only through some of these really deep, intense moments that we're able to reconnect with that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like he sees trials more like these kind of initiations that help guide us into, greater compassion for ourselves and others, and bring us to these points of like grace and forgiveness and acceptance. And so I think he sees it like some of these darker places as just key parts of the journey of life itself, mm-hmm. right? And we have to go through those ups and downs, and they give us opportunity to meet ourselves with more grace, more love, more acceptance. So it's part of life's journey. It's not like, oh, we're in a despair state. We don't want to be like, oh, well, I guess we failed. Right. It's like, I feel deep sadness. Why? Mm-hmm. And it's that exploration of trying to find that is the journey.
Right.
It's like the unfoldment, right? So the first group of remedies that we're going to talk about, there's 2 today, are remedies for despondency or despair. And these are the ones with the pink labels. So as a group, these speak to the deepest wounds of the inner self. The experiences that shake us at our very foundation and strain the connection between the soul and everyday life. So these remedies are going to address states where our confidence collapses, our hope feels faded, and our heart feels burdened by emotions like maybe guilt or overwhelm, trauma, our own inner darkness. So from Bach's perspective, these states are important thresholds in our lives. These are places where our personality has reached its limit and the soul begins to call us in a different way. So these flowers help when we feel crushed by life circumstances, trapped in our own self-pity, self-doubt, or, we're overwhelmed by just this emotional weight that we cannot carry alone. And so there's remedies that even help us, accept support from the outside in moments when there's just like, it feels like all lights going out. So the very first one that we'll talk about in this group is larch. I actually take larch often before recording a podcast because the core emotion is a lack of self-belief, a fear of failure, and feelings of inferiority. Mm-hmm. So the key phrase here, which I think is really appropriate for this one, some of them it's like, I don't know if I would put that as the key phrase, but it's have confidence.
Right.
And so...
yeah, that one's pretty spot on.
Yeah, I reach for that one when I'm like, can I? Do I? So larch is for those who hold themselves back. And this is not because they lack having the talent or the vision. It's because they doubt their own abilities to succeed. So they may watch others pursuing goals and think, wow, I can never do that. So when you're in this state, you might tend to avoid trying altogether because you're already convinced that you would fail even if, even before you've even began.
Right.
So it's almost like you're self-sabotaging because you're like, yeah, well, that's not going to work. Because you see other people doing it. You're like, that looks hard, or that looks, they're way cooler than me. I couldn't do that.
I could never do that.
So they sit back, they admire the accomplishments of the people around them. But when they look at themselves, they're kind of like, yeah, I'm unworthy of that. I'm incapable of that. So it's not even like an envy here. It's like an actual, like they don't actually believe in themselves.
Right. Lack of self-confidence.
Right. So there is this fear that they will never be a success, and they'll give up at every opportunity. So they finally have like a chance, and they're like, it's like they're not allowing it to happen. And so when I even first started this podcast, I was already taking this from me because I was like, I mean, it sounds good, but I don't know, like if I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I worked with this essence, and I still sometimes I kind of like relapse.
Right.
My confidence relapses. So the song that comes in my head, I was actually listening to this with Iris the other day, is the Alea song, dust yourself off and try again. Like you have to just, when you take this essence, it kind of pushes you to just do it. And even if you fail, it's okay. Like that's kind of the other side of it. So instead of just accepting like these limitations and convincing ourselves that we're just maybe not worthy, or we're not strong enough, or some people, it might even be like they don't feel like they even deserve, and you can see how many blocks that would put in your path.
Oh yeah.
To create like the life you want, if you keep self-sabotaging like this, that you're not even giving yourself the chance.
And it's wild because most people all start around there, and the people that can push through it and get going are the ones that succeed. But
Right.
They have those feelings, I think, a lot of them, not everybody, but a lot of people have those in the beginning, like, I don't think I can do this, but I'm just going to do it. And everybody has to start and work their way up.
Right. You have to face that initial fear.
Yeah. You have the mess ups. If we're using the podcast as an example, you have your mess ups, and you have to learn to edit, and you have to get the right equipment, and sometimes you get the wrong, and you work your way through it. But if you let the fear overtake you, then you don't ever actually get going.
Right.
And that's where the problem becomes,
Mm-hmm. In this particular state, like a couple of the other ones that we'll go into today, and we've covered a couple already too, it's not an inherent condition. Mm-hmm. So some of these states are more like our own natural kind of constitution. But this state actually comes about as a response to trauma or a particular setback. And now it's like you are actually afraid to try again. Mm-hmm. Because you're like, man, that really messed with my confidence. Like, I don't know if I could handle another hit like that. Like, my ego might collapse, if I fail this.
So that's like if you were trying to paint a picture when you were young, and somebody criticized it and was like, that's terrible, you're not an artist.
Right.
And you took that to heart, and then later in life, you're like, I can't draw, I can't paint.
Right. And it might be hard to even find the point.
Right.
When that happens.
You have to do a little digging and figure out where that's coming from in your psyche of why you have the or the lack of self-confidence.
Right. Where did your confidence take a hit?
Right.
In regards to this particular thing. Mm-hmm. So when harmonized, this fear of failure dissolves into a natural curiosity. So there's this, when that confidence is renewed, there's this assurance that's rooted in your own self-love and acceptance that you're like, well, maybe it won't work out, but how am I to know if I don't try? So it kind of changes this wanting to kind of prevent yourself from even having those experiences to saying, I might find a lot of joy here. There might be a lot of inspiration here. How will I know if I don't try? So in the negative state, some of the key words to consider is they're feeling inferior to others. There's that fear of failure before they even begin to try. They may avoid opportunities or challenges out of their own self-doubt. They might compare themselves with others assuming that others are a lot more capable than them. And it often masks their own insecurity. And they'll do this through humor or detachment. But it really is like they secretly feel like they're not good enough. So they might make jokes about like how, I could never do that. How,
Right.
And stagnation arises not from their own lack of talent, but from their disbelief in their own ability. So the key emotion there would be inadequacy and defeatism. But the positive potential here is a healthy confidence and trust in one's own abilities, courage to try new things and learn through experience, realistic self-assessment balanced with optimism. And in that place, success comes naturally because the fear of failure is no longer blocking the expression. So we're really moving from self-doubt towards self-trust with this remedy.
Yeah. That's so important and a really, really critical thing to work on if you're struggling with.
Right. Oh yeah. So I feel like working with this essence really changed my life actually. And then it guided me to a deeper essence once I peeled back that layer, which we'll talk about here soon, because this one you can differentiate with another one, and sometimes it's hard to choose.
Right. That's what I found as we were studying this whole group of despondency or despair. They're all very similar, but there are subtle differences that really make a big difference. And if you don't quite get the right one, it may not work as good as another one would.
Right.
And it's tricky. That line is very, very fine. And
right. Or you might take them together.
Right. The combination.
Or one might follow another well.
Yeah.
So maybe it is large in the beginning, but maybe there's something even deeper there.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one that we're going to talk about is pine. And the core emotion with pine is self-blame, remorse, and feelings of unworthiness. So that's kind of similar to large, right?
Mm-hmm. The
it's
unworthy.
Right. Like, I'm not good enough for this. So the key phrase here is have self-respect, which I do think resonates really well with this one. So pine is for those who carry the weight of guilt. And this might be deserved, or it might just be imagined. These souls are they're sincere, they're conscientious, they are sensitive. But they hold themselves to these impossibly high standards. Mm. Even when they have done nothing wrong, they actually feel responsible for others' pains and the life difficulties of the people around them. So this particular one, as I was reading it, it's pretty deep because it's connected to, criticism and this severity tied to the father and or maybe the religious institution of the person that's put so much pressure on them that they feel like they'll never live up to those expectations. And they genuinely, they actually believe that they have failed life. And even when every single thing goes right, they're like, I could have done better. Forgive me, Father, I have sinned. So it can be connected to excessive moral concepts, or, the dogma is so intense that they actually believe that they deserve to be punished.
Yeah.
And they differentiate this one with rock water, which I think that's the last one in the series today. So the difference is that rock water have this ascetic thing, but they're more proud of their harsh values. They seek that, where pine people feel bad about themselves. They're very discontented with their efforts. Mm-hmm. So the rock water person is yes, I have fasted for 2 weeks. I'm starving. It's great. And this person's well, I could have starved myself better.
Right. I could have starved myself
I could have done better. So there can be this kind of internalized blame thing that goes on with the family. They feel like they're kind of holding it all together, but yet they're also always letting everybody down. Mm-hmm. So this person will tend to apologize easily and often. They're taking on burdens that are just not theirs to bear. And they may replay their own past mistakes on repeat. And there can be this sort of longing for redemption through overworking themselves, self-sacrifice. And it's kind of this martyrdom thing.
Yeah.
Which you can imagine if, with some of these religions, if you're being taught that self-sacrifice is the goal, and then God forbid you have a selfish motive, you're going to just like ostracize yourself.
Right.
If you truly believe all of that. I mean,
yeah, I wasn't devoted enough. I didn't tithe enough. I didn't do this or that enough or properly, and now I'm suffering
right.
And it's all my fault because I didn't do it right.
Right. So beneath this humility lies a deep lack of self-acceptance, which actually stems from their belief that their love must be earned.
Yeah.
So, and with this one, it is an emotional condition that develops over time. So I also don't think that this is when you're born with. I think it's something that maybe you're born into a really strict family.
Yeah.
And it's going to put you in this state over years of, going through these harsh experiences with the people that you love the most. So in the unbalanced state, the pine individual may live under constant self-reproach. They struggle to celebrate any of their successes, or they also they struggle to receive love. Their inner criticism will always overshadow their own joy. So it's hard when these states are going to come out from some kind of early conditioning like that, because it's, you might need to dose this often, and you might feel really good, and then something triggers it and you might need it again because you're like, wow, that brought up that old wound.
Do you think that flower essences, if used frequently or often enough, ever fully heal you?
Mm-hmm.
So there could come a point where you don't feel this way again, you think?
There could be, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I can't say that for every person.
Right.
If you're taking a flower essence, but you're putting yourself in a situation where, like, let's say you struggle with your own self-worth, but you're in a relationship with someone that calls you stupid and ugly every day.
Right.
There's not going to be a flower essence that is going to make that not hurt.
Sure.
There is a flower essence that can restore your own confidence so that you walk away from those kind of relationships.
And one day just believe that they're wrong and you deserve better.
But there's also, just like homeopathy, obstacles to cure. I mean, at some point hopefully the self-love becomes strong enough for you to walk away from some of these patterns that are actually reinforcing some of the negative states. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is also important, along with the essences, to be evaluating, am I putting obstacles on the path that's going to make this take forever? Like, am I constantly allowing this to come back in to where now I'm challenged again and again and again? I mean, there's some point sometimes you have to make a physical change.
Right.
But I would say the essences, for the most part, are helping you develop in a way that you're naturally going to want to walk away from some of those issues or those cycles that are just keeping you trapped, in a rut. And there's flower essence for that. Or you're cycling back through choosing the same relationships and, know. And so if you're working with somebody, they might help you recognize that as a pattern where maybe you might not.
Yeah.
You might not see that as dysfunctional. So you might be treating your confidence when really we should be working on, like, why do you keep seeking, like, toxic partners?
Yeah. I see what I mean?
So when harmonized, pine restores peace and self-compassion. The person recognizes their mistakes as part of their own growth. So they begin to forgive themselves as naturally as they would forgive their loved ones or their friends. So the energy that was once bound by regret is now freed up for creativity, joy, and service that they do because they just want to do it, not because they're feeling like, oh, the Lord will smite me if I don't, sacrifice myself for the poor today. It's like, I want to help the poor because it makes me feel good. It makes them feel good. That brings me joy. So it's like the intention shifts.
Yeah.
So they move more from like apologizing to like having this natural gratitude. So the humility remains, but now it's balanced with kindness towards oneself. So maybe if they're having a low day, maybe they don't go feed the poor that day. Maybe they go out for ice cream and take a nap and, like put their needs in equal balance with the needs of others. So the negative potential here carries a sense of responsibility for everything. They apologize constantly, even without reason. They hold themselves to impossible standards and feel intense shame when they fall short. They are hard on themselves and rarely acknowledge their own good efforts. Their emotional energy drains into self-criticism, and this actually blocks them from joy and self-acceptance. So the positive potential here in the transformed state is a healthy self-respect and the ability to acknowledge the mistakes without self-punishment, genuine humility balanced with compassion for oneself, the ability to forgive oneself and release unnecessary burdens, a lighter, freer relationship with responsibility and self-worth. So we're moving away from self-blame to self-forgiveness. The next remedy we're going to go into is elm. And this is the one I was bringing up with larch is, for me, it was a deeper layer. And the larch was just kind of like this easy to diagnose top layer. Mm-hmm. But later I realized it was something deeper. So I might reference that, my own personal experience as we go through this one. So the core emotion here is temporarily overwhelm, loss of confidence under heavy responsibility. So elm is for those who are capable, they're dependable, and they are deeply dedicated. These are people who carry great responsibility with grace most of the time, but occasionally the weight becomes just too much. So these people are strongly motivated by their soul purpose. Like they know what they're here to do. And that sense of purpose at times can be kind of exhausting and also lead to self-doubt. Like, oh, this is like, how am I going to actually do it though?
Right.
And in the book, it differentiates oak with elm. So he says in the book, the oak person struggles on and they just keep going, right? And they're like, they don't even stop to think about how they're feeling. They just push and push. But the elm person, there's a point where they might falter and become very depressed. And like they can push themselves like oak, but then it's like they might hit a point where they're like, oh, I'm really struggling today. Where oak is not even going to stop to have that thought.
Yeah.
So in this state, the person who is usually really strong will suddenly feel unequal to the task. So even though they have a purpose, they know what they want to do, they have these moments of uncertainty. They may say, I cannot do this anymore, as the exhaustion or doubt starts to surface.
Yeah.
Though the feeling may pass quickly, it can shake their confidence, similar to larch. So I was like needing larch all the time, but then I was like, actually, it's elm. I mean, I think larch was the top layer. It was the easiest one for me to peel back.
Right.
So elm moments often appear after long periods of service when the soul needs rest and just needs to stop trying to prove their worth for a minute. Elm can help restore perspective. So it's going to remind us that this strength includes the ability to pause and that we serve life best when we also care for our own well-being. So that's like a common thread with all of these. It's caring for ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So when unbalanced, the elm individual may feel momentarily crushed by their own sense of duty. They hold themselves to high standards and often take on more than is reasonable, fearing to let others down. This exhaustion can lead to brief despondency. This is more like a crisis of confidence rather than like a chronic state. So it's just going to kind of, come up in moments where you've really pushed yourself.
It makes me think about caretaking for others. When you have to do so much and you just keep going and you just reach a point where you're like, I just don't think I can take care of this person anymore.
Right.
And you're overwhelmed and exhausted and you're like, I just don't think I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just lose all that confidence that you're capable, and you just want to give up and surrender. You're just like, I can't.
Right. So in a more harmonized state, Elm helps to restore calm assurance and faith in one's own abilities. The person regains strength and clarity, realizing that it is natural to need rest, help, and renewal. They begin to delegate, trust others, and accept that perfection is not required. Their own sincerity is enough. So this essence helps transform fatigue into a renewed vitality, and it brings back a sense of proportion and inner peace. So they remain devoted and capable, but their strength is now supported by humility and balance. So they serve not through strain and force, but through allowing themselves to flow and have those kind of ups and downs, and say, well, even though I'm in this moment of questioning, it's not actually a true reflection of my own worth. It's just a point in a very long journey. So the negative potential here is a normally confident and dependable person may suddenly feel very unable to cope. They're overloaded by responsibility or expectations, which leads to a brief collapse of inner strength. They feel exhausted, pressured, or not enough despite a history of success. They can experience sudden self-doubt or fear of failing others. The breakdown is temporary, but deeply discouraging when it hits. So I actually took this essence one time at night, and like none of the other essences were working, like calming me down. I took Elm and just immediately had the best exhale.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it's this deep sense of purpose, and it's just exhausting me because I want so badly for like my dreams and my visions and all of this to have that reach, to succeed, to connect and help people. Mm-hmm. And it was burning me out, and I couldn't even relax at night. I mean, I was so exhausted I couldn't sleep because I was like burning at both ends. And then I'm like, what if I failed this? If I failed this, then, and it's obviously not a healthy state to be in, which is why this essence is so helpful.
And we'd been trying to use Calm the Mind, which was, what is that, white chestnut?
Yeah, and it wasn't quite cutting it.
Right, because it wasn't, the phrase Calm the Mind you think would work, but that's what I was meaning earlier, is like as you learn these and you learn the nuances, you realize that your situation was more elm-based than what white chestnut actually describes.
Right.
And so that helped us understand and go to elm that time. And it worked. You're right. It absolutely helped. It almost instantly. It was pretty wild.
I'm good again. Just had a little uncertainty.
It was wild.
So in the positive state or the transformed state, there is a return to inner steadiness and confidence, a realistic understanding of limits, and the ability to delegate or rest when needed. And that was a problem. I wasn't able to let myself rest. Mm-hmm. A rediscovery of joy, of purpose without feeling crushed by duty. Strong, grounded presence balanced with self-care. So we're moving away from overwhelm to grounded capability. All right, the next remedy we're going to talk about is sweet chestnut. And this one is heavy.
Yeah. And
I'll also say the key phrase of be optimistic. This one's so deep and heavy that I don't,
sells it a little short.
Right. I don't know if it's just like, I need a little optimism today. I think this is more of like soul crushing. It's such a deep despair. I mean, maybe it does just help like, you're a little down and you need some optimism. Like it might be, okay
It
for
might
that. I
help,
mean, you
yep.
can try it, but there's really some kind of deeply spiritual exhaustion that goes beyond just like a little like
I'm
questioning.
kind of down today.
Right, right. So this is a feeling like when you've reached your absolute limit. Sweet chestnut is for those moments when the soul stands like at the edge. So all the old structures have fallen away and there seems to be no way forward. This is not ordinary sadness. It is more like the experience of spiritual desolation when every effort has failed and one feels stripped bare before life. So I was going to read this quote from Bach describing this state. When the anguish is so great as to seem so unbearable, when the mind or body feels as if it had borne the uttermost limits of its endurance and that now it must give way. So in this state, the person may cry out inwardly for help, sensing that they have given everything and have nothing left to give. So this is definitely a deep threshold moment, when the heart has broken open and, you're really at this, like the deepest level of pain and suffering. So in its unbalanced form, sweet chestnut brings a sense of total despair, an internal night where no hope seems visible. So this is making me think of like the Dark Knight, like Gotham, everything's dark, like
It's all bad.
it's bad,
Yeah.
It can't get worse. Like you were literally at the bottom. The person may feel abandoned by life or spirit and convinced that they have reached the end and they cannot be redeemed. Yet under this intense anguish lies a profound transformation. The breaking point is also an opening point. So you think of like Rumi, the wound is where the light enters.
Yeah.
So this surrender that comes forward actually allows grace to pour in. So the soul that has endured to this point is being emptied so that it may be filled anew. And in Julian Barnard's book, he says about this state, this calls for the most powerful expression of light and regeneration in the plant kingdom to pull consciousness up from the darkness of the underworld. So this is a very like subterranean place. Like you are in the underworld. And in the YouTube series that we were watching on this, which I can't remember the guy's name, but he references the tarot card, the death card.
Yeah.
For this. It is like an ending, but we know that ending is also a threshold to a new beginning.
Right.
So that's where the light is.
It's
right.
more of a transformation.
Right. But it feels like there's nothing left. Like you actually feel like you can't go beyond this.
Yeah.
So this is where sweet chestnut is going to show up and really hold you. So when harmonized, sweet chestnut brings peace after turmoil, light after darkness. The person emerges renewed, strengthened by faith rather than circumstance. There is a serenity in knowing that the divine has never left them, that it's just a matter of surrendering to that greater plan, outside of us. So in the negative potential state, some key things to keep in mind is experiences deep despair, feeling there is no way out of the current situation. Emotional or spiritual suffering reaches its peak, stretching the soul to its limits. Feeling of abandonment, being trapped or pushed to a threshold beyond your own endurance. A sense that all inner resources have been exhausted and nothing remains. The ego is at its breaking point and it's preparing for transformation but unaware of it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we're in that moment. It's like we can't see the light yet.
We're too deep in it. We're stuck in a hole.
Right. So this is the dark night of the soul. The positive potential here is a breakthrough into inner liberation, finding clarity and surrender, a profound spiritual renewal, often accompanied by a sense of grace, discovering a strength that arises not from the ego but from the soul itself, and deep peace in trusting in life again after passing through the threshold. So we're moving from the darkest night to the spiritual dawn. And I don't know if there was a Batman movie about the dawn after the dark, but
well, the Dark Knight Rises, but that doesn't quite.
Okay, I mean,
It's kind of.
it's close. So the next remedy we're going to talk about is Star of Bethlehem. This is one of the key remedies in Bach's combination remedy, rescue remedy. So he calls this the comforter and soother of pains and sorrows. So the core emotion with Star of Bethlehem is deep sorrow, trauma, or shock that remains unhealed or unexpressed. This can be in the present or the past, right? So it doesn't have to be something we're actually experiencing now. This can be great to have on hand. Say someone has PTSD and they're going through therapy and they know at some point that's going to come up again. They know it's on the timeline. They're going to have to face it. Star of Bethlehem can even help us in the past if we needed it in the past and we take it now.
Yeah.
It can help neutralize like the grief and trauma. So Star of Bethlehem is a great comforter to the system. It is for those who have endured sorrow, loss, or sudden shock that left their spirit stunned and disconnected. The trauma may be recent or long past. It can also be physical, emotional, or spiritual. The imprint tends to remain in the subtle body, and this can show up as just fatigue, tension, emotional numbness. In this state, the soul's natural rhythm is disrupted. The grief remains unprocessed, sometimes buried deep beneath strength or denial. The person may seem composed, yet carries a quiet emptiness within themselves. They may cry out easily or not at all, sensing that something within them is longing for peace but cannot find it. So Star of Bethlehem was absolutely life-changing for me with grief. But it, as I was taking it, I realized, oh my God, I was grieving way before, these people passed.
Right.
I was grieving from the lack of a relationship that never existed before they even died. I was there was just so much. It held me in so many places I wasn't really aware I was suffering. I mean, because I was detached.
I have a question. I was thinking as I was listening to you explain that, if you're taking it, and it's going to heal past wounds or trauma or things, do you think that happens purely at an unconscious level, or do you need to think and focus your intention on which wound you're trying to heal? Do you think it just heals on its own, whatever's back there that needs it, or do you think you need to focus on what you're looking to heal?
I don't think it requires you to focus on it and bring it back up.
Yeah.
But I think if it comes back up, what you'll notice is that maybe the last time it came up, it was really triggering for you.
Yeah.
And now, maybe something comes back up. Maybe you see the toy that you had as a child.
Yeah.
And normally that would just take you to a place of deep pain. And now you're like, oh, I loved that toy when I was a kid. Instead of just it being triggering because it's a reminder of something that was once painful, like an experience. Now you can see it with a different kind of light around it.
So it's one that you could just take and heal things almost that you didn't even fully remember.
Yeah, if you have trauma at all,
yeah, this
is number one. Take the Star Bethlehem.
And even it's stuff that you don't even remember. It could work on healing.
Oh yeah,
which it could cool.
Technically heal the trauma of being born. I mean,
right?
It's going to help you process.
Yeah,
it's going to help you neutralize those experiences into something that's not just going to destroy you or shake you every time it comes up.
What a valuable healing tool.
Oh yeah. And when I was reading in Julian Barnard's book, it had a lot of like sacred geometry with this one, because the flower itself is like perfectly, it's like a 6-pointed star. And it was talking about like things like trauma, whether it's a physical accident, like you break a bone or in a car crash or something, which is very shocking to the system, or, you get some terrible news, or someone you love passes or whatever. And what it does is it kind of messes with that geometry a little bit. It distorts it.
Yeah.
And when it's not like that perfect fractal, it's like the soul's not working from this state of wholeness. And so what this remedy does is bring you back into harmony on all of the levels, like even in the subtle ways where it's just your energy has been damaged a little bit through physical, emotional, or spiritual shock or trauma.
Yeah.
And it helps bring you back into a state of wholeness. So in the harmonized state, the person will begin to feel safe enough to grieve, release, and remember certain things without it making them just collapse or putting them in freeze, or, it's like instead of like ruining their whole day or month, now they're like, oh, I can actually process this. So tears may flow, maybe something they never fully released. And, they're able to maybe kind of cleanse themselves of any old residue from, suffering from the past.
Yeah.
And gradually serenity will begin to return, and the person will start to feel lighter, more open, more connected to spirit, connected to their own inner compassion, radiate more peace, and their presence, even at this point, may be a balm to others who are now in that state that they were in, right? Because they're operating from this real beautiful sense of love and health. And so when they see others, it's like they're going to recognize that. But because now they're more whole, they can hold that space without it sending them back into that state, right? So this is when it really sticks. So the negative potential things to look for are holding unresolved shock from recent or long past events. The system feels frozen, numb, or unable to fully recover after emotional or physical trauma. Saddened or withdrawn with a sense that part of the soul has not yet returned. They may feel disconnected, empty, or unable to process what has happened. And this grief can sit deep in the body, making life feel kind of muted or dimmed. So the positive potential here is a gentle yet profound comfort that brings the soul back into that state of wholeness. The ability to integrate and heal from trauma with grace and support. Reconnection to self after experiences that felt too overwhelming to face. And restores your own inner peace, soothing the heart and the nervous system. So we're moving away from shock to a place of inner restoration. So the next remedy we're going to cover is willow. And the core emotion here is resentment, self-pity, and bitterness after perceived injustice or misfortune. And in Julian Barnard's book, he actually compares the state to wet blankets spreading gloom and despair, taking without giving. So I was like, that's kind of a interesting.
Yeah. I do hate a wet blanket.
I was like, ooh.
That's a terrible image.
So, willow is for those who feel wronged by life. They carry a quiet resentment or a disappointment that things have not gone as they should. They may once have been very optimistic and generous, but over time feel hardened or withdrawn, convinced that fate has been unfair to them. So they may dwell on what others have done to them. They may compare their suffering to those who seem more fortunate. Gratitude feels unreachable. And they may think, oh, why me? And feel that their effort no longer matters. So, there's some themes of exile here, just a rejection of life. and a lost belief in the fairness of life. And this is when I probably could have really benefited from as a child, because I do feel like I was treated unfairly, and I got like really obsessive about it. And it was really hard for me to move on past it, because these people that were treating me that way were still in my life and still treating me that way. And I was just like, it made me so bitter. And there was a point when I was working with an herbalist, and like she had me, close my eyes and just like go to the herb that was calling to me, and it was like the most bitter herb. She was like, "Are you bitter, Astral?" I was like, "Oh shit, I guess so."
I guess a little bit.
But so I do think, it's not that they are like born into the state. The state is created, and there's just a point where it kind of breaks your spirit down, and in that unbalanced state, that energy can turn to like a subtle poison. Because the anger maybe is unexpressed and the sadness is not acknowledged. And they're just kind of stuck in this loop of just resentment, and they're having a hard time moving on from maybe an injustice that was done to them.
This would obviously pair really well with Star of Bethlehem.
I think so, especially if the trauma comes from someone putting you in a victim state.
Yeah.
So the theme is forgive and forget. And we all know that forgiveness is a selfish act, right? We do that for us, not for the perpetrators.
Yeah.
In Julian's book, he also says the tree's affinity for water, they have massive root systems that are like searching for water everywhere, to the point where they're like clog people's like drains and stuff, because they extend out. But that shows how willow people feed upon emotional drama, the emotional drama of complaint and blame. So it gets to this point where it's just, they're almost just like seeking out the drama at that point, because it's like such a part of their being.
Yeah.
So when harmonized, it restores that initial optimism, gratitude, and emotional resilience. The person begins to feel light again, and they're not bound merely by all of these past disappointments. And this allows their energy to flow a lot more freely and for joy to return. So, in the negative potential state, some of the key things to look for are feeling like a victim of circumstance, believing life has been unfair, carrying resentment or grudges, often replaying past hurts, blaming others or fate for unhappiness, and feeling powerless to change things. The mood becoming sour, withdrawn, or internally heavy, and inner bitterness blocking joy, gratitude, and connection. And in the positive potential, it's connected to reclaiming your own inner power and responsibility for your own life experience, cultivating forgiveness, acceptance, and a sense of fairness towards self and others. And gratitude and openness return, and the heart begins to soften. So life feels cooperative again, and not just this hostile environment where the odds are just stacked against you. So with this remedy, we're moving from a state of resentment and bitterness to inner responsibility and renewal. So just because we were victims doesn't mean we're going to embody that for the rest of our lives and actually put ourselves in situations where we keep experiencing that again.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of key with thinking of like the resonance of these states. I mean, if you're in that state, you're really attracting more of that.
Yeah.
And so this is where forgiveness and forgetting and moving on, you're actually consciously choosing to change that resonance to something different.
Yeah.
And that's where change and growth really happen. So it's really hard, especially when someone actually has been a victim of circumstance, and that bitterness is very logical.
Right.
But
you can't stay in it forever.
You can't. It's toxic.
Yeah.
And it brings more of that into your life.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because you reflect it out to people, and they reflect it back to you, and it's a never-ending cycle.
Right, and it's repulsive.
Yeah.
So the people that could come in and change and bring positive energy, they're not going to want anything to do with that state. It's going to feel jagged and
like, I'm not helping.
I don't want a wet blanket.
Right.
So, I mean,
people get tired of that real quick.
Right. Absolutely. Because that's going to change their state. And they're going to be like, that's not comfortable. Why would I want to do that?
Right.
So it's one thing to meet people where they're at. And it's another thing when you witness people and they say they don't actually want to change. It's almost, you know, you have compassion for yourself to just move along because you're like, I don't want a wet blanket on my energy that I've worked so hard to create, you know? So it's like, it's important for you to take that responsibility to draw that blanket out and become warm again. I mean, it's like you didn't cause the pain, but you're responsible for the healing kind of thing.
Yeah. And this is an excellent tool for a problem that you're not even sure of how to let go of and heal.
Right.
Because the bitterness can be so consuming, and it's one of those things like, you need some help, but mentally you just can't do it at all. Like and so you take it, and if you were to take it regularly, I think it would start to ease, and you could slowly get your mind working to a point that you could mentally let go. And because I think without help, sometimes we don't even know how to begin that process if you're trying to forgive others or yourself. And so it's one of those that you recognize it's there, but you have no idea how to do it.
Right. And maybe you don't recognize it.
Well,
I mean, I
that's
didn't
true.
realize I was bitter until
that's
it
true.
came up, and I was like, oh my God, that's actually it. And I was working with someone one day, and, you know, I was treating them homeopathically, and they had a physical ailment. And so I got the whole description of, you know, what led to that point and everything. And then I pulled out the Flower Essence Body Maps book. And I'll just say by Kramer, because I'm not going to butcher their first name pronunciation. But we can do an episode on that. And the location on her body where she was experiencing pain, the corresponding essence was willow. And I realized, you know, that there was some maybe bitterness that led to her coming to that physical ailment.
Right.
And it actually helped me see the case more clearly. But it's like, she didn't call it that. But she was very resentful.
Yeah.
And it actually caused her to have a physical ailment. So that, I mean,
that's
the spirit speaks to us all the time. And what starts out as an emotional thing, if we don't assess it, can turn into now a physical complaint, you know, and now we've got to treat it from multiple perspectives because, you know, we actually have a physical ailment now. So but it actually helped me to look at it and, you know, assess it, because I'm like, you know, she kind of has told me this without saying the word resentment and bitterness, but she said it in another way. So it actually helped me grow as a homeopath.
That's cool.
To try to kind of see the underlying emotional connection that sometimes people won't tell you. So the next essence is oak, and the core emotion here is overwork, strain, and the inability to stop pushing despite exhaustion. I mean, they will just go, and they put themselves in a very sick place because they're just not resting. So
be like a workaholic.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And there is something that they're avoiding underneath that, pushing them to keep staying so busy. So oak is for those who persevere long after their strength is gone. They are very reliable and steadfast and devoted to duty. They keep going no matter how tired they are, and they are driven by their strong sense of responsibility and inner discipline. To others, they may appear very strong and courageous, but inside their energy is running thin. So in this state, the person may refuse to rest and believe that stopping would mean failure, and they will continue to press forward out of habit and willpower and not out of joy and because they really want to. So even when they're depleted, they will keep carrying the load. These are like the people that cannot get the flu because and they'll just stay sick forever, because it's like, if you just lay down for 24 hours.
Right. And just
and
stop.
Let yourself, you know, and the body will physically get sick to make them rest. And they'll let it carry on and on and on because they just simply will not give themselves permission to drink bone broth and lay in bed. So, they're going to keep pushing even when they're in a completely depleted state. And if you look at the oak itself, the oak is one of the oldest living beings that we have on Earth. And even at the end of an oak's life, they will continue to struggle to provide sustenance for all these other lives that depend on it, because there's so many other species that the oak provides shelter for and
right.
sustenance for. And even when they're like dying, it'll say it looks like the oak's dead. There's still one little sprig that pops up. It's still trying just a little longer, and they live to be very old, and they continue this responsibility and pushing their endurance their entire life. And they'll actually, because this is the resonance of them, attract those that need help, which then results in them constantly pushing.
Right.
So it's like the oak tree attracts pests and things. It'll attract all these different things so that it constantly requires itself to endure. And it does endure. I mean, it's, like I said, one of the most oldest species we have. It can be as much as 1,000 years old. So
that's wild.
I mean, it's amazing, that test of endurance. But it's as a person in that state, I mean, it's very exhausting.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're not trees, so we shouldn't act like it. So in an unbalanced state, the oak person can become very rigid and stoic and emotionally closed. And they're actually going to take pride in that endurance. They wear that like armor against vulnerability. So, but that drive will lead to burnout, despair, and even though quiet, maybe a grief, because it's underneath, it feels like life is just an obligation. Like they're acting out of habit rather than because they're inspired. So, it's noble to want to serve, but without balance, that service becomes strain. And it's just not healthy for us to push ourselves to this point. And even the strongest tree, it must bend to survive a storm. There's something to allowing ourselves to sort of rest and seek renewal. And that's not a weakness within our character.
Right.
So when harmonized, oak is going to help restore our vitality, our patience, and approach strength through a more balanced place. So the person learns to listen to their body and allow themselves to rest and take moments to nourish themselves, finding more of a flow rather than forcing things. And the work becomes more joyful again, because it's not just, oh, this is my duty, this is what I do, I wake up, I eat, and it's it becomes more purposeful and done because they want to do it. It's not just this pressure to do it.
Right.
So the negative potential things to look for are strength, reliability, hardworking, but often to the point of self-neglect, feeling obligated to carry on no matter how depleted you are, rarely resting, rarely asking for help, rarely recognizing your own breaking point, may feel inwardly exhausted, but continues to push out of duty or loyalty. When the spirit has become strained, losing joy and spontaneity under constant effort. So in the more positive state, we're looking for balanced strength that's rooted in resilience rather than force, an ability to rest, delegate, and honor your own personal limits, endurance that flows naturally with vitality and stability, and becoming a steady, grounded presence who works with life's rhythms instead of against them. So honoring those down points as a part of the life cycle. So we're moving away from this relentless striving to a balanced strength. All right, and the last essence in this series of them, and we'll still move on to the next round, but is crabapple. So the core emotion with crabapple is feelings of impurity, self-disgust, or fixation on minor flaws. There is a sense of needing to clean or perfect. So in this state, there's just this almost obsessive fixation around superficial problems. Like they have a blemish on their face and they cannot see past it.
Right.
And I know the state well. I know the state well. And I absolutely have taken crabapple many of times. But, it's at its core, it's for those who feel inwardly unclean, defiled, or ashamed. So this can result from illness, making mistakes, or even an obsession with physical or moral imperfection. These people can focus intensely on details, small faults, or things that feel off within or around them. Also, this is in the Rescue Remedy cream. It's different than the Rescue Remedy spray, and it has the crabapple in there. And I thought this was really interesting. I learned this in Julian Barnard's book. But he says, being a cleanser, this remedy purifies wounds when there's like a perception that like a toxin has entered. And it operates directly at the physical and medical level more than any of the other remedies. So this obsession with purification, well, like the remedy itself, like kind of helps with that. So the cream can be used more topically. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's like a scar or a blemish or something like that. So I thought that was interesting because I didn't fully know that it actually does have more of a physical affinity too, not just this emotional.
Right. That is good to know.
So it can feel like that those toxins have entered, right? And that might be physical or it might be like emotional poisons, right? Toxic ideas. Like these people feel like they have somehow been infiltrated or there's something wrong in their environment. Like they're dirty. They've been exposed to bacteria. And there can be a lot of shame around this like contamination, which actually makes it hard for them to experience joy because they're like so obsessed with cleansing themselves. So in its more transformed state, crabapple brings acceptance, forgiveness, and peace with imperfection. So the person's able to see themselves and the world around them through more compassionate eyes, and this obsession with the flaws starts to dissolve. And they're more appreciative of life's like innate order and beauty, and like there's beauty even in flaws. The healing process itself is beautiful. You see like the scab, it looks all ugly, but you're like, oh, how beautiful. Like my body is like
it's actually healing.
I mean, and so it's like finding beauty in those moments of imperfection rather than just trying to fix everything. You're kind of just embracing that process in a more balanced way. So the negative potential that you can look for is feeling contaminated, unworthy, or uncomfortable with your own body, obsessing over cleanliness, order, or minor flaws, experiencing self-disgust or embarrassment, even over small things, perfectionistic tendencies that reflect deeper discomfort with the self, and fixating on details while losing sight of the greater whole. I did also take this when I had a lingering cold. I mean, it was like 2 months, and I just had this like cough attack, and I was so humiliated because it was like on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And it literally took me like 30 minutes to like get my stuff to regulate. And I took crabapple for that because I was so embarrassed. I was just like, oh my God. And it's not even that I was actively sick. I was still recovering from
Did you take it right then after the coughing?
Yeah. Thank God, because I probably would have ruminated on how disgusting I was. So in the positive transformed state, there's clear inner perception of wholeness and purity, self-acceptance that embraces both our strengths and our imperfections, and the ability to see situations in their true proportion rather than through magnifying the issue, and cleansing on the emotional, physical, spiritual levels, restoring harmony. So we're moving away from self-rejection to inner clarity and acceptance with this one. All right, and the next round of remedies are remedies for the overcare of others. And these are the ones with the blue label. So there's 5 remedies within this group. So you can think of them with addressing like emotional states where love, responsibility, or conviction become overextended to the point of imbalance. So Dr. Bach saw these states as distortions of virtues. And at their core, these personalities carry tremendous strength devotion and purpose, but when pressured by fear, insecurity, or rigidity, their natural gifts become excessive, and love becomes possessive. Passion becomes forceful, principles become inflexible, and high standards become self-punishment. So definitely wanting to work with these states is, it involves our relationship to those around us. If we're overly concerned with people,
Right. It's going to affect a lot.
So the first one here is chicory. And the core emotion is possessiveness, overprotection, and conditional affection that seeks to hold rather than bless. And the archetype here would be like the egoist. But the theme on the bottle is love unconditionally, right? To love people for who they really are, right? Versus who you want them to be.
Yeah.
So chicory is for those whose deep capacity to love becomes entangled with their own needs. So they care fiercely about others. Their family and friends are really important to them. But, beneath this desire to nurture lies this subtle expectation. So they want to be loved and appreciated and needed in return. Mm-hmm. And they can put high expectations on those around them. In this state, the affection may become controlling. Advice becomes insistence, and care becomes emotional dependence. So the person gives tirelessly, but feels wounded when their gestures go unnoticed, and they may cling to their loved ones or feel hurt when their independence is mistaken for rejection. This is also a learned behavior. So, if you meet a chicory child, there's usually a chicory parent or a grandparent somewhere.
Yeah.
That's teaching them this behavior, this almost like codependency and relying on the group and forcing your opinions on those around you kind of thing.
I thought a good example that we came up with that really honed in on part of it was the story from Coco, the Disney movie, where the great grandmother or whatever her relationship was had been wounded.
Mama Amelia or something.
She'd been wounded by a musician, and so she didn't want any of her loved ones to experience that, and so she had a strict family rule of no music.
Right, and it was out of love.
Right, it was from love, but when Coco wanted to be a musician, she was like, no music, and was very mad. And she had to learn to let him do his thing and to release that control and to love him unconditionally.
Right, and that's like the whole point in the movie.
Right, it's the entire thing.
Right, and in Julian, Barnard's book, he actually says, chicory people want to be remembered, which makes me think of Coco's Remember Me.
Yeah.
They want to be remembered. They are a part of a family line, and they will control their heirs even from beyond the grave.
That's exactly
so it's funny.
Coco.
He's literally in the other world.
Yeah.
And she's like, no music, even there.
Yeah.
And she's trying to control her ancestors and everything. It's
yeah.
And everyone just does it because that's the family unit. And this is what I mean is they stay in a group.
Yeah.
And he even kind of talks about, reincarnation. Like they'll incarnate together, and they're kind of stuck in this family dynamic of just control and manipulation. And
this is how we've always done it.
Right.
It's your great-great-grandmother's way.
Right. And it does come from a place of love. But it's also to truly love someone is to allow them to be free.
Yeah.
So, when harmonized, these people are going to give, without the expectation, and also allow others to be who they really are. Their affection becomes steady, warm, and unpossessive. So the negative potentials to kind of look for is giving help freely, but with strings attached, expecting love, attention, or loyalty in return, feeling hurt or offended when others do not respond as you hoped they would, being controlling or clingy or overprotective towards loved ones, using emotional pressure, subtle guilt, or worry to keep others close, and love that comes from a fear of losing connection, not from freedom. And in the potential transformed state, this is going to help to develop unconditional love that gives without expecting anything in return, allowing the people you love the freedom of their own individuality and their own personal path. Warm, nurturing, steady presence that is free from emotional manipulation. And the heart becomes more generous and expansive rather than grasping. So we're moving from possessive love to unconditional warmth.
Yeah.
Right. And by the end of Coco, I think they figured it out.
Yeah. Well, they were dancing around while Coco played his guitar, and they were all enjoying the music.
How many lines of people suffered from that belief, that projection, before they finally were like, actually, this is toxic.
Yeah. A lot, I'm sure.
So the next one that we're going to go into is Vervain. And Vervain's core emotion is overenthusiasm, tension, and idealism that becomes forceful or exhausting. So Vervain, in the book he talks about it, is a counterpart to both Chicory and agrimony. But agrimony feels inner dissatisfaction, and Vervain is dissatisfied more with the outer world. Right?
Okay.
So Vervain is for those who are driven by conviction and inspired purpose. They are very passionate about truth and justice. They are eager to uplift and awaken others. Their enthusiasm is infectious, but when unbalanced, it becomes intensity, and it can be very overwhelming. So they have this deep sense of like a mission, and there's this urgency about it, and they believe they must persuade and reform and fix the world. Mm-hmm. I think we all know some of these types. They often push themselves beyond their limits, and they're unable to rest until things feel right. This overextension can lead to tension, exhaustion, and frustration when others don't share their pace and their passion. So it's a little bit like impatience, but with like the outer world where, in patience, like they push themselves.
Right.
And they're like, I'm not even going to ask for help. I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. Where this is like, they have a mission, and it's almost like they expect everyone else to have this kind of same enthusiasm. But they're, deep down, it's this desire to leave this lasting mark on the world. So that's kind of where it might be like Chicory, because they're wanting to leave a legacy.
Mm-hmm. This is one where I've learned a lot more about, because the phrase on the bottle is just relax and calm. Mm-hmm. And
it doesn't always just do that for me.
Right. Well, exactly. But when you look at it, you think, oh, well, I'm having trouble calming down at the end of the night, or I need to chill out, or even like the kids are being rowdy, we could give them some of this, and you'd think it would just help you calm down. But there's actually a lot more to it than just that.
That state usually requires a different remedy for me, actually. So yeah, you're right. The key phrase here is misleading sometimes.
Yeah, this is one of them.
There's this, in their desire to leave that lasting mark, they tend to control and try to direct the lives of others and convert everybody around them to their own views of life. So there's a little bit of fanaticism here of like, I have a message, I'm right, and I need to become this like missionary to make sure that everybody else is thinking the same way. So in the unbalanced state, Vervain's energy can manifest as rigidity, nervous strain, or martyrdom. They may feel constantly on and holding tightly to ideals or principles, and their body will mirror this state. Their shoulders will become tense. Their breathing is usually shallow. They have disturbed sleep. So even though their intensity may be noble in their overall motive, it actually is usually concealing some kind of subtle fear underneath, that if they stop striving, their life and their purpose will lose meaning.
Wow.
So that's why they need to relax a little bit with that key phrase. So they tend to be very inflexible, strong-willed, and do not find it easy to change their mind. Like, they are very devoted to their cause. I will give them that. Mm-hmm. In a more harmonized state, Vervain brings serenity and true magnetism. The person will still care deeply, but their enthusiasm becomes measured and steady. They will share their wisdom gently, respecting the timing and the path of others. Their nervous system will relax, and joy will be able to come in and replace some of that strain. Their conviction remains, but it now inspires rather than demanding everyone have that same path as them. So the negative potentials to look for is a strong sense of justice or mission, pushing the self and others beyond healthy limits. Tension within the body and mind from constant effort and excitement. Feeling responsible for persuading others to see the truth or follow a certain path. Becoming rigid, overbearing, and unable to relax. Burning through energy quickly through intensity and overcommitment. So in the positive potential transformed state, the person may be calm, wise, and have that enthusiasm that's inspiring through their presence rather than the pressure to be like them. Their energy will be more balanced. They'll be able to relax and have respect for other people's perspectives. And it can help support the ability to lead by example and not force. So we're moving from driven zeal to calm inspiration. So you can see, like, you're just needing to relax at night, but are you... I mean, this is kind of a very specific energy.
Right.
You know?
That's the thing, is it felt more general, but
right.
It actually is more specific.
Mm-hmm. So the next one is Vine. And the key phrase would be motivate, not dominate. So the core emotion is dominance, control, or insistence on others following one's way. And this kind of already sounds a little bit like Vervain.
Yeah, it does.
But I think this one's just a little bit more like critical and exacting, and like just really forcing their will onto others, like specifically those who feel kind of weak.
Right. That's similar to the Chicory, where Chicory was more done like out of love.
Right.
And this is more done maybe out of power dominance.
Right. And like some of these other ones, Vine is a learned approach to life. So somewhere in their childhood, their self-expression was ripped out, whether the bullies at school, their parents, a teacher. So it's kind of like the bully that was bullied in the past, and now they're a bully, and it's almost to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Right? This is for those with strong will, confidence, and natural leadership. They know what they want, and they often know how to achieve it. So in their balanced state, they are very capable, wise, and inspiring. But when this energy tips into the shadow, it becomes authoritarian and unyielding. This person may impose their views or direction on others, believing they know best. They can become commanding or inflexible, expecting obedience rather than cooperation. Though it's often well-intentioned, their power can become disconnected from empathy. It's almost like this attempt to control the world around them because that makes them feel maybe more safe.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of a sad place to be in. And you can compare the strictness with Rockwater, but Rockwater is very strict with their own self, where Vine is strict with those around them. Interesting connection to the plant. Vine flowers have no petals, and so this kind of gives them this lack of emotional sensitivity and or a lack of empathy.
That's interesting symbolism there.
So when unbalanced, their energy manifests as hardness, and they're so focused on achievement or control that they forget to have compassion, and they may be very impatient and intolerant of people having different opinions. In the more harmonized state, Vine awakens gentle leadership. The person retains the strength and clarity and decisiveness, but now they're going to act with more empathy and respect. And their presence will be more inspiring here, and kind of calling on more cooperation rather than just submission. So in the positive state, they become natural teachers, healers, guides. They're firm, but they're kind. They're strong, but they're still humble. So that authority becomes more aligned with love. So some of the negative potentials to look out for is confidence, very capable and decisive, but that may become more authoritarian and demanding, expecting obedience, believing that you know what is best for everyone, inflexibility, forcefulness, dismissiveness of others' viewpoints. So this would be really a toxic boss,
Oh, yeah.
No one wants to work for this person. But I promise you, they put themselves in situations where they're a leader. So they tend to take charge even when not asked, overshadowing gentler personalities. So that's where they kind of almost pick those that are weak, and they'll choose to dominate them.
Yeah.
And leadership becoming more controlling, and the strength is very insensitive. So the positive potential would be the wise, compassionate leader who empowers rather than overpowers. Strength express their gentleness, fairness, and respect, and encouraging others to find their own path rather than imposing a direction. So the next one is Beech, and it's connected to being more tolerant. That's the key phrase here. Mm-hmm. And I always kind of think Beech sounds like another word. That kind of makes you think of this remedy.
That's a good way to remember it.
So
you don't want to be a Beech.
Don't want to be a Beech. The archetype here is like the critic. So the core emotion is judgment, intolerance, and irritation towards others' imperfections. So they're very fault finding. They look out into the world and they're like, I hate it.
You all suck.
Everybody sucks. So Beech is for those who see clearly what could be improved, but they lose patience with the process of growth in others. They often have a very refined perception and high standards, and they'll notice every single imbalance or inefficiency around them. And their insight, although a gift, can be clouded by their ego, and it just becomes criticism. Yeah. Rather than really trying to help someone understand. It's like they become nitpicky. It's like they're not really trying to help someone grow. They're just, this is your flaw. Here's where you're going wrong. This, you kind of sucked at that. And it's like, I think
beat you out all day.
They beat you out. This is also not a soul type, but a condition that builds over time. So they're very judgmental. They'll criticize the world around them. And they have a very narrow view of life, and this restricts joy in their life, which also restricts their vitality and inevitably leads to ill health.
This would be, not only would it be hard to self-diagnose, but it would be a little awkward to diagnose anyway. Mm-hmm. If you explained it to them. If you didn't,
well, they're probably going to be like, you suck.
Right, I'm not coming to you. This whole thing's stupid. Right, I get. But if they came to you, you just be like, just take some Beech. It'll help you. You don't have to get into the reasons of why you think Beech is best for them. Mm-hmm. But this would be hard to diagnose.
It would be hard to work with this person.
Yeah,
I don't know. I actually don't. I have Beech, and it's never been opened.
Yeah,
and I don't know if those people would seek help.
Right, which is interesting.
Which is sad. I mean, it's sad. But I almost felt like studying these and just learning some of these different types, it's like, okay, now when I meet that person, I'm like, that is a state. It's a toxic state, and I'm just not going to mess with them probably.
Right.
So, and even with the plant itself, there's this quote in the book, and it's, Beech can grow under any species, but none can grow under Beech. Because they're like that.
Fascinating.
Kind of dominating. So when unbalanced, the Beech individual can appear very cold and superior. Their judgment often masks a deeper sensitivity, a discomfort with disharmony that may unconsciously project outward. So I don't know if they realize they're doing it. They might actually think that when they tell you that you look terrible, that like that's somehow nice because like they really think you look terrible. And they're like, well, maybe if I tell them.
Maybe if I tell them how ugly they are, they'll fix their appearance.
So they develop this urge to really suppress the freedom of other people's self-expression. So if they don't like the way you dress, they're probably going to say it. And it might be very passive aggressive. Like, well, I wouldn't wear that stupid shirt, you know?
Right. I'd never be caught dead in that color.
Right. So at the core, though, and this is where it's kind of, you know, for us, it's kind of sad to witness, you know, it really is this lack of self-worth. So they can't value others because they don't value themselves.
There it is.
Right. There it is. So usually they have grown up in a very harsh environment where there was a lot of criticism and intolerance. And now they've embodied that, and it will continually push people away. And even as a species, like, they cannot tolerate competition, and they will close out other species from, like, prevent them from growing. But there's beauty with all of these. We don't want to get, some of these are a lot harder.
Yeah.
I think it's like this one particularly for me is hard because I have witnessed these people and I have a really hard time with them, you know, as I like look at, I mean, I used to work with this person that's totally in the state. And when I got the job, every person from the other place I worked at was like, that girl's a bitch. Yeah. And like, so I'd heard all these tales, you know, about this person. I started working with her. And it's not that she wasn't nice to me, because I think she was still feeling me out. Like, can I manipulate this person or not? But she was like, I'm going to make that girl cry tonight. That was like one of the first things I heard her say.
That's crazy.
And she was like really mean to this girl about her skin. Like, she was like, your skin's peeling. You must be on drugs or something. And like, she actually did make her cry.
Wow.
And at that point, I blocked her. And I was like, this girl is not going to connect with me at all outside of work. Because I was like, it's the true, like, mean girl.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know how to help people like that if they can't recognize that quality. But it's something that every person that I knew warned me about, because she projected it so far out that it even traveled to other counties. Okay.
and surely those people are not happy with themselves in the way that they treat people, you know. I mean, I guess there are some like full-on psychopaths or sociopaths that are, but I think most people, if they're in that state, like, they're not happy with it, and they're not setting out to be that way. Like you said, it's learned, and then it's projected out to others, and it's masking something much deeper.
Right. And that's where we just have to say they're projecting this and just move on, because there's really no point in taking their criticism to heart. But it's hard when you're a sensitive person. Sure.
And if it's directed at you, then it's extra hard.
Absolutely. I don't want to be the girl crying under the Beech girl. Right. So in the more harmonized state, Beech can help to bring gentleness, tolerance, and true vision. So the person still perceives what needs improvement, but now they see it with compassion and maybe some humor even. So they become more patient with differences, understanding that each person's path unfolds at its own divine pace. So in the balanced state, there is a clear perception, which becomes a healing gift rather than a weapon. So they can guide others kindly without imposing, and uplift rather than critique. So the negative potential to look for is noticing faults quickly and reacting with judgment or impatience, holding high expectations and becoming irritated when others do not meet them, appearing cold, sharp, and lacking empathy, even if the intention is to improve things, a difficulty understanding different viewpoints or ways of doing things, and a criticism that's masking deeper sensitivity and a wish for harmony. So the positive transformed state would be genuine tolerance, compassion and acceptance for others' uniqueness, ability to see beyond surface flaws to the soul and intentions beneath, and warm understanding that uplifts rather than criticizing others. So we're moving away from criticism to a more compassionate understanding of those around us. All right, in the very last essence. This has been such a long episode. I've lost sense of time, but
right, and this is episode 3 of 3. So we've gone through a lot of essences.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of work, but hopefully it pays off and people have actually benefited and learned something, and feel more comfortable working with these essences because they're not like so foreign.
Right.
That was the intention.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I certainly have.
Great. Well, if one person has benefited,
yes,
it's helped me too. I mean, to go back over all my notes and review and refresh, I think it's good for us to come back to it because as we grow, we see things differently and we start to meet these people, you know, like out at the grocery store and stuff. And you're like, oh, I can sense that beach from a mile away. That's mean. I don't want to be judgmental.
Right. No, it's just something to laugh at, but I know what you mean.
Right. I try to be accepting of all the types.
Right. And it's that.
And some are more hard. But.
Well, I was going to say Beech is probably one of the few that is easier to pick up on without really interacting too much.
Right.
You know, somebody who's critical of themselves or they're scared of something, you're not really going to run into that, like especially with your example in the grocery store. I'm not going to know that you have a fear of bats just by running into you.
Maybe.
Well, that's true. If you're standing there hallucinating in the produce aisle, scared of bats, then
there are people.
Yeah. So
like one of my last study cases was.
So yeah, maybe
fear of flapping things.
I shouldn't pass judgment until I meet them.
Right.
So.
There's a lot of suffering out there.
Yeah.
You know.
True that. That's absolutely.
And we wouldn't need these essences if we were all perfect.
Right.
So, but yeah, the last one's rock water, and the quotation on the bottle is flexible mind. So the core emotion is self-denial, rigidity, and perfectionism that's born from high ideals or strict discipline. So these tend to be the idealists who have very strong opinions about things like religion or politics, you know, reform. Rock water is for those who live by strong principles and moral conviction. The soul strives sincerely towards spiritual or personal perfection, often holding themselves to standards that few could meet. They lead by example, and they are very disciplined and devoted, yet they may deny themselves things like pleasure, rest, spontaneity. The person may suppress their own natural desires, believing that joy must be earned or that indulgence weakens the spirit. Though their intentions may be noble, the rigidity restricts the heart and the energy flow.
I think about people that are very hardcore into diet and exercise.
Absolutely. That's this person.
Yeah. They absolutely will not bend or flex at all. There will be no cookies ever. And I'm up at 4 a.m. every day to exercise for 3 hours or whatever it is. Very strict.
Yes. Well, this is like the ascetic. So when unbalanced, the rock water person becomes overly controlled. They may feel guilty for small pleasures or critical of themselves for imperfection. And this inward pressure can lead to emotional dryness and a loss of warmth and connection to life's simple beauty. And they might actually feel like if they fail to make others follow their ideas, like that's going to bring them a lot of unhappiness because they're like, my life, it should look so great. Like this should be desirable to you too, right? Like you should also eat this diet and you should also be exercising all the time. And like, no wonder you're depressed if you're not living this like extreme. And it's kind of a form of fanaticism, but around these ideals of like perfection.
Right.
So it's like self-imposed austerity. And, you know, this is a well-meant attempt to really transcend the human condition by just completely denying it.
You know, it's interesting. I actually just saw a video earlier this morning that was dissecting the character of Ebenezer Scrooge. Mm-hmm. And it was actually coming at it as we misunderstand him. He's not hating on the poor and all of that. He's actually being very strict. And the example they gave is when he wouldn't give Cratchit any coal, you have to acknowledge the fact that he's sitting in the office without using the coal too. And he's being restrictive. And when he says, whenever he gets mad at him for not wanting to come in on Christmas, it's not that he wanted him to come in while he wasn't there. He was going to be there too.
Right.
And he looks down on the poor and the
Right, because he thinks like if you worked as hard as me, you wouldn't be poor.
That's exactly right.
Like you taking Christmas off is why you're poor and why you need my coal.
You're poor because you don't live up to the strict standards that I hold for myself. And if you
Right.
did and you withheld the same way I do, then you would be better off. And that's exactly the way that this is. He needs a big dose of rock water right in the
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. I think you definitely nailed an example of the archetype for sure.
Yeah.
So when harmonized, rock water restores ease and fluidity and joy. The person will still honor their ideals, but now they allow room for more softness and spontaneity. And that's kind of Scrooge at the end.
Right.
I think he got a touch of this essence somehow,
You're
through life circumstances, through a trauma. He's scared he's going to die. He's reflecting on his life. Now he's like, oh my God, this
Right.
is not healthy.
I'm missing out on the soft joys of life, sitting around with family and friends, enjoying the holiday. And instead of doing that, I've been living real strict and real by the books and expecting that that's going to give me a good life or a good result.
Right. Perfect. I'm so glad you brought that up because we hadn't talked about that before, but that's such a good example that most people know. So the negative potential things to look for is holding rigid standards for personal behavior and striving to live up to an ideal of perfection, denying personal needs, pleasures, or rest in pursuit of purity, discipline, or doing what is right. They may appear strict, self-controlled, and overly serious. Inwardly longs for freedom, softness, and spontaneity, but fears losing control. And life becomes narrow, rule-bound, and overly ascetic, cutting off joy and flow. So the positive, more transformed state would be flexibility, openness, and compassion towards oneself, the ability to enjoy life's simple pleasures without guilt or rigidity, and ideals become lived from the heart, not forced through discipline. So we're moving away from rigid perfection to a gentle inner freedom. So that sums up our flower essence series. Wow, that was so much work.
Yeah.
It was good though. I've enjoyed doing this with you.
I really have too. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, I've really learned a lot. And it's been incredibly beneficial. And hopefully, if you've joined us along this journey, you've learned a lot too. And if nothing else, I think you should definitely take away from this that there are many different essences that can help you out in numerous ways. And you would benefit greatly from using them. And I think the best way to do that, instead of spending all the time studying yourself, is to maybe reach out to someone who has done the work, like Astral here, and book a consultation and talk with her and give her some information about what you're dealing with and some of your struggles, and let her help you and help guide you and choose some of these remedies based on her studying and doing the deep dive and make a difference in your life. And so you just started in the relative recent past, starting to take consultations, have you not?
Yeah.
So can you tell people just a little bit about that and what they can get from that or how they can contact you?
Yeah, so you can book on astralmeadow.com under the homeopathy section. Once you click that, it'll take you to the different consultations that I do. So like I do acute homeopathic consultations, surgical consultations for people that are about to have surgery that we're trying to make a kit for them to have on hand. And then I also do flower essence consultations. And those are a 60-minute Zoom consult where we have a conversation. You tell me what's going on. We just talk. And by the end of it, I'll be taking some notes and I will help you create your own flower essence blend, or, maybe it is just one or two.
Yeah.
But we'll work together to figure out like which essences can best support you in that moment. And then, we can do a follow-up at some point if you feel like this has really helped, but now something's happened and shifted and now I might need a different essence, so I can help people kind of hold space for them through all life's ups and downs. And yeah, so you can do that at astralmeadow.com. I was also going to share that instead of doing Rescue Remedy here, because these episodes are so long, but I made a separate video, but only on YouTube. So my YouTube is Astral Meadow 369. And so there I went into Rescue Remedy, like what's in it, what are flags to work, to point you to that's the right one. And I just recommend that everyone really has that one. I mean, because it's just, it needs to be in everybody's first aid kit, right? Because it's so necessary. It's so important. But if you'd like to watch that video, follow us on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment. That would be great. YouTube is so hard to get any reach on for me. But so hopefully some people can find us on there. And I think that's everything. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So thank you so much for taking the time to create these with me and to help me edit them and, just help to have these beautiful conversations. I think it's a gift for those who get to hear it. It's a gift for me to get to have them. So
always. So it's a gift to be a part of it and to be so close with you. So I really appreciate it and always look forward to joining you and doing these studies and dives and talks.
Right. Which after the new year, we're going to have a few more guests on. But if you don't follow me on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, you might not have known that we are shifting and we'll be doing less guest appearances and releasing once a month, longer episodes like these, and doing more like YouTube videos, like shorter content. So it's the podcast itself is going to shift to more of me and Justin exploring and sharing our own experiences and journey, versus just having guests on all the time. I still have plenty of guests on the schedule. It's just not going to be every 2 weeks with a guest every time. So it's going to be more like this back and forth flow where we pick specific topics. There might be 1 to 2, 3 part things. That way we can really dive into, the core of, a concept or a theory or an idea or whatever we are feeling called to bring forward at that time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. All right. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for tuning in. Check us out next time on the Astral Hour.